Hello, I'm Stephen Santilli, Assistant Superintendent, and we're here having a conversation today with our anti-bullying specialists from grades 4 through 8, Miller School, Alder School, and Fernwood School. We have Miss Rossetti from Miller School, Miss Dragovitz from Alder Avenue School, and Miss Adams from Fernwood Avenue Middle School. So we're talking today about harassment, intimidation, and bullying, and your role as anti-bullying specialist within the district and within your schools. So our first question that we want to talk about was consequences and dealing with consequences. So our first question will be for Ms. Dragovitz. So what are consequences for students that have violated the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights?
Although the consequences are not determined in the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights, they are followed by our Code of Conduct. With that being said, we do try to take into consideration the infraction or if they have been a prior aggressor of HIB. In more serious instances, we have given students after-school detentions, suspensions. There have been times where they've lost their privileges. Say, if something occurred serious at a dance, we could take the dance away. If they keep doing the infraction on a bus, we have taken bus privileges away.
All right, so moving from consequences to actually interventions to try to be more proactive. My next question would be for Ms. Adams, and I really want to find out what services are available to a student who is being bullied.
We have services available for both the victim and the aggressor. Some of the services include a parent conference where we'll meet with, it could be a teacher with the counselor, assistant principal, sometimes the principal as well. We do counseling, group counseling and individual counseling with students. We also do education to, let's say if a student's using inappropriate language or words directed towards certain student groups, we'll do those kinds of things too. And then there's also outside counseling for some students who have more, for ones that have been more emotionally affected by the bullying incident.
Okay. Well, I think that's definitely important because it's not just about supporting victims and having interventions for them, but also trying to, let's face it, I think behavior, and we've had conversations about this, behavior is something that is actually taught. So I think that offenders at times need to be shown or have an intervention that would be in place to support them, to be able to let them understand, you know, this is the way that we have expectations within the school for how you should behave. And sometimes those things have to be taught. So it's good to hear that we have those things in place for both the offenders and the victims. My next question would be for Ms. Rossetti. And you know, in I guess when this law came out for harassment, intimidation, and bullying a number of years ago, a lot of times we hear quite often, we get a parent phone call that may come into you as the anti-bullying specialist, could just come into a teacher, it may come in even to a vice principal or principal. And a lot of times parents will be very quick to just say, my child's being bullied. But I think that there's a lot more to it than you know, that they're being bullied, and there's different components to really fall into that category. So the question for you is what is the difference between bullying and conflict?
Sure. When a situation is brought to our attention, we look to determine if it's conflict or bullying by looking at several factors. First, are the students are they perceived to have the same degree of power, or is there an imbalance of power? Is one student perceived to have more power over the other student? We also look at if it's a mutual disagreement or if one party is exerting their needs and interest over the other. A lot of times with the conflict, it'll include arguments, disagreements, fights, for example, name calling that's going back and forth. Whereas with a bullying situation, the bully their intent is to physically or emotionally harm a student based on an actual or perceived characteristic. Finally, with conflict can be resolved through negotiation or compromise, whereas in a bullying situation, a fair resolution is a change in behavior of the bully.
Okay. And something that comes to mind too is that I think in understanding the difference between conflict and bullying, I think that I'm hearing that there's a lot of different characteristics that would actually have to hit the mark for it to be part of the anti-bullying law, and also for somebody or an offender to be considered a bully. But that doesn't mean that a student isn't going to be addressed. So if it doesn't hit all of those characteristics, there is still the code of conduct and going back to the consequences, as well as interventions to reteach behavior. So even if it doesn't hit all of those marks for someone to be considered having a HIB, there is going to be still consequences, and we are still going to remediate to make sure that it doesn't happen again, and reteach those behaviors or how to properly act, even if it doesn't fall within the harassment, intimidation, and bullying law. So I think that's important too for those
Absolutely.
to truly understand. So again, thank you for the work that you do. I know it's not easy, especially in your world of 4th through 8th grade, and you know, it really is great in terms of EHT pride, trying to reteach behavior, trying to make sure there's interventions in place and support everyone within our school community. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.